What does this word mean? Have you ever heard of this word? And I don't want you to Google it because you really shouldn't know. Okay. And that's what we're doing today. So has anyone ever heard of these two words, corpus callosum? Corpus callosum, not Colosseum.
If
Okay.
it's like corpus, like sort of like corporeal, maybe something to do with real or physical, but other than that, I don't know.
Okay. Finding it from something else. It is a nerve fiber in your brain, and it connects the left and the right hemispheres of your brain. Okay? That's what it is. It's a nerve fiber in your brain that connects the left hemisphere to the right hemisphere. So, this is what allows the communication from the left side of your brain to communicate to the right side of your brain. Right? So, without it, the left side of your brain would not be able to communicate with the right side of your brain. And if you guys remember from an assignment we had, which side of the brain, also known as hemisphere of the brain, there's a left and a right, is responsible for processing words and numbers and letters? Does anyone remember, left or right?
Left.
The left. Cheyenne's right. The left side of your brain is responsible for processing words and letters, right? So the right side of the brain, anyone know what the right side of the brain is responsible for? What is that process, the right side of your brain? Other than Cheyenne, does anyone else know? Unmute yourself if you do.
I think like emotions, um, like the more artsy stuff, I guess.
Okay. Pictures, objects, places, and faces. Okay. So the right side of your brain processes objects and places and faces. All right. Something you need to know. That's why I've said it a few times, right? People in front of me should be writing some stuff down. Might be a good idea. You're in school in front of your teacher. You're not Zooming today. I don't know why your computers are open either. You don't need your computer open. So get out your notes and start writing some stuff down. Thank you very much. Awkward. Okay. Put this on the board for a reason. Guys, I'm a genius now. I know how to put it on the whiteboard and Zoom it with you guys. I am learning. Look at that. Okay. So once again, the left side of the brain processes letters and words. Okay. The left side. The right side of the brain processes objects and places and faces. It's important to know that. And this thing here, corpus callosum, is what connects both of them. And it allows communication to go between the two. Without that, right, if I look at a chair right in front of me, if I look at a chair, it's an object, right? It's an object. So the right side of my brain is seeing it's an object and knows that that's what it looks like because it's an object. My left side of my brain knows it's a chair, 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 because it's a word and letters, and that's what my left side of the brain does. And they communicate with each other inside of my brain to know that chair, chair, equals the object chair. I know that sounds silly right now, but if you keep that in your head when we're watching this next video, you're really going to understand what's going on, because it can get really confusing if you don't remember that. All right. So again, water bottle. The left side of my brain knows that the word WATER space BOTTLE spells water bottle, right? The words, the letters. The right side of my brain can see this, it's an object, and knows And together, because of the corpus callosum, they communicate with each other in my brain. And I know that water bottle, the object, equals the word water bottle. Does that make sense? Can I get a thumbs up over there? Can I get a yes in the Zoomy world?
Yep, that makes sense.
Thanks, Abby. It's just Abby. Oh, I got a chat because we don't like to talk to each other. Thanks, Allie. Allie, you usually like to talk. Okay. So that there you have it. I know that sounded silly, and you guys are probably like, shut up, we get it. Okay. But I really wanted to dumb it down and give you a couple examples because this video that we're about to watch, there's this guy. Now, this is dated. It's a dated video, so I apologize for that. But it's a really cool story. There's this man, and he used to get severe seizures like a few times a day, every day. Really bad seizures. And he would always go to the doctors and they didn't know. So they did this research and they somehow concluded, I'm not a doctor, I don't know why, but they concluded that if they severed or cut the corpus callosum, that it stopped his seizures. So that's what they did. They cut the corpus callosum in his brain and it stopped his seizures. But in doing so, and I want you to think about this before we start this video, in doing so, the communication that would happen inside of your brain now happens outside in front of him. Weird, okay, I know. But you have to remember what we just talked about, left side and the right side of the brain, okay? And you also have to remember that the left hemisphere controls the right side of your body and the right hemisphere controls the opposite, the left side of your body. It's the opposite. So this is my left eye, just in case it's like flipped because of the zooming. If my left eye, if I close this eye, right, and I'm looking at my water bottle, the right side of my brain is actually, right? Just remember that, okay? We're gonna watch this video. We're gonna see what you guys think about it. It's pretty cool.
We began our journey into the human brain here on the campus of Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. I'd come to meet one of the world's leading brain scientists, Mike Gazzaniga, and a man he's worked with for over a decade. A man with two brains.
You've been working a long time with Dr. Gazzaniga? 14 or 15 years?
It doesn't seem like that long, does it?
The collaboration began when Joe had surgery.
And you had this procedure to correct an epileptic problem,
Yes.
is that right?
Trying to stop the seizures. I was having seizures like every day or so, or sometimes 2 or 3 a day.
To control Joe's epileptic seizures, a surgeon severed the connection between the two halves of his brain. Cutting the corpus callosum like this prevented the spread of the electric storms that caused his seizures. But it also prevented the left and right halves of his brain from communicating with each other. In the years since the operation, Joe's epilepsy has been under control. He now earns a living at an egg farm, and in his everyday life, he's largely unaffected by the fact that his left and his right brains work independently.
Do you feel any different when you think about something than you did any differently from the way you felt before the procedure?
It's just got a backup brain, that's all.
That's something everybody could use, right?
I found out how true that was right away when I was asked to draw a different shape with each hand. In a brain like mine, roughly speaking normal, at least all in one piece, the left half of my brain controls the right side of my body, while the right brain controls the left side.
Oh, no.
But because the two halves are connected,
Nothing wrong with that.
getting each hand to work independently isn't easy.
Well, we're seeing the fact that Alan's hemispheres are connected, and that the motor messages from one are confusing the motor messages in the other.
I was just drawing an upside-down duck.
Okay. But when Joe is given the same task, his two hands operate as if controlled by two separate brains. What's happening is that each half of Joe's brain is given a separate instruction. He's asked to fix his eyes on the cross in the center of the screen. Anything flashed to the right of the cross goes only to his left hemisphere. Things to the left go to his right hemisphere. Because the two don't communicate, each hand does only what its half of the brain sees.
Wow, it's really like two different people doing the same.
That's right.
Same
That's
task.
that's the idea. Okay, Joe, I want you to keep your hands out in front.
In an experiment that's now a classic in brain research, Mike Gazzaniga over 30 years ago used a similar setup to find out if the two halves of the brain are specialized to do different things.
Ship.
Joe is being flashed a word only to one half of his brain. Words flashed to the right
Storm.
are seen only by his left brain, and Joe can report seeing those words just fine.
Piano.
Now remember, he can see those words just fine because his left brain, right, is responsible for it. So he can see piano and ship, and he can say the words, right? Because the words go with the left side.
Good.
But when a word is flashed to his right brain,
Didn't see that.
Okay. Joe, I'm going to ask you
but now watch what happens.
to draw that with your left hand.
So he wasn't able to, he said I couldn't see that. Like he couldn't read whatever he saw. But it was flashed to the right side of his brain, which is, if you remember, it's responsible for what? Objects, right? It said, if you guys didn't see it, it said phone. That's what the word said, phone. So his right brain is not responsible for words. So that's why he couldn't say phone, but he saw in his head an object. So that's why the guy said, here, draw what you saw. He does not know it's a phone. He's just drawing something. He has no idea. And until he sees it with both of his eyes, you'll see what happens next.
You're gonna be lost.
Why don't you try drawing another picture of it over here if that will help you?
Oh, phone.
Oh, okay.
It's almost as though somebody has given him a secret communication.
That's
And
right.
now he knows that it's a telephone. Up until then, he was blind to it.
Exactly.
When Gazzaniga first did this experiment, it instantly proved that the ability to speak resides almost exclusively in the left hemisphere. Not until he sees what his right brain is drawing is Joe able to name it.
He said church then, after looking at the picture.
But he had to figure it out about as long as we did. That's really interesting. It's a picture here of somebody communicating almost with another person.
The communication is not occurring inside the head; it's occurring out on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
Blob. I don't know.
You want to draw a little bit more?
So far, Joe has been seeing only one word.
Cat. That's a cat.
Things get
sound.
even stranger when he's flashed two words, each to only one half of his brain.
The right hemisphere saw toad.
Yeah. And so his left hand draws a toad.
So there's the toad.
Oh, it's a toad. Right. This time I was able to guess what was coming.
Now
We'll put a little three-legged stool in there later or what? Joe's speaking left brain saw a stool. Saying the word lets the hand that's controlled by his right brain in on the secret. That's great. That's really interesting. And if he had seen that with the corpus callosum intact, he would have drawn a toadstool.
Right.
Not a toad and a stool.
Right. Exactly the point. I've been doing this for 35 years. Yeah.
And
It gets me every time.
yeah, it must. It must.
This time, instead of naming the word, I want you to point to the word.
Again, Joe sees two words simultaneously. Bell goes to his non-speaking right brain. Music to his speaking left brain. When asked to point to a picture of what he saw, he chooses Bell. But when asked why,
Yeah, why'd you pick that one?
Music.
Music.
and when asked to explain,
It was music, bell, and it was a few minutes ago. Last time I heard any music was coming from the bells out here, banging away.
So the bell's outside here.
So, but good enough answer to me.
What's extraordinary is that Joe's speaking left brain concocts a plausible story of why he pointed the bell, even when some of the other pictures more obviously represent music. Gazzaniga believes this determination to find cause and effect, this desire to explain, is the left hemisphere's most marvelous property.
One of the unique things to the human brain is this need to interpret why two events occurred. What was the antecedent of this? What caused this? And if you can imagine that a species like us that has that little chip in its brain that asks those questions is going to survive rather well, because it's going to figure out more about the nature of the world than a species that doesn't have that.
Okay, Joe, I want you to keep your hand.
But as I was about to discover, the right brain has a very useful survival skill all its own. What do you think will happen here?
So for you, we're doing a live experiment. Never done it before.
The experiment involves the 16th century Italian painter Arcimboldo, who made faces out of fruit, flowers, meat, even books. From other research, there's reason to believe that the ability...
Pause real fast. Who can tell me which side, left or right hemisphere, processes faces?
Right.
That's correct, the right. He's probably going to say in a second, but...
recognize faces is located exclusively in the right hemisphere. So Mike wondered if Arcimboldo's paintings would look different to each of Joe's two brains.
So will his left hemisphere say, I saw a potato, I didn't see a face? And will his right hemisphere say, I saw the face, and not comment on the fact it was made out of a potato?
You're going to see a figure followed by a choice of two words.
This works. It'll be terrific, but we'll see. So here it is, live.
Okay.
The first painting goes to the right hemisphere. And Joe points to face. The next painting goes to his left brain. And this time he points to fruits. Mike seemed pleased.
Having a moment.
This is too good.
Again to the right brain. And Joe sees it as a face.
Point it down.
But to the left brain,
Face made out of books.
were you happy with what you're doing?
It's unbelievable. He's doing it. You see that?
He's going so fast, he's shifting from left to right.
What I would like you guys to do is on Schoology, in this week's folder under our Zoom link, you will see 225 assignment, corpus callosum reflection. Okay, you're going to open that up and reflect on the video that you just watched. All I am looking for, it says it there, just in case you're not listening, but it does say it there, to reflect on the video that we just watched. What are two things that you learned from this video? Two things that you learned from this video. This is your exit ticket for today. When you are completed, you may leave. And also, of course, as usual, if you have any questions, I'm also here for any questions from now till the end of the period.